Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the LJL Officially Unofficial podcast. We actually made it, guys. We made it to episode 2. I don't know how. We did it. We actually did it. Even after episode 2 went away and we had to do episode 2 V2 because we're like Jake 2.0 because we're doing the whole early 2000s thing where everyone had to be V2 and XX whatever. LJL episode 2. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Mars Swan on the internet. I also go by Lexi, as you will probably hear in all of this cast, because there are 2 Alexes, but I'm going to throw it over to my color commentator and my play-by-play caster. I'm always going to keep doing this. You always get different titles. Initialize and Nymera said their names in different orders. You're going to have to pay attention to who is who when they introduce themselves now.
So I am Alex, I am Nymera, I am the color commentator this week amongst my other titles. And you know, this may be the V2, but we cover the V3 in LJL.
Ooh, nice. I like that.
I can make a play on that. So yeah, welcome back for those of you who survived episode 1, and happy hellos to everyone who's seeing us for the first time on episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2, Electric Boogaloo. Sam, initialized. I actually worked out where Electric Boogaloo comes from, actually. There's like this old school, really bad dance movie that was like Electric Boogaloo.
Really?
It's actually legit. Go look it up. It's a really bad movie as well, but apparently it's like an old dance movie.
That's exactly my thing. I love terrible movies.
Yeah, it's just a really terrible movie, apparently. But it's worth a Google at some point, apparently. Either way, sorry. I'm Sam, initialized. Taking this way away from League of Legends onto esoteric meme references, but there we go.
I almost want to just...
I am the play-by-play caster.
I just want to chime in and say I was able to find a really bad Keanu Reeves film from like his early career. Like we're talking first roles he ever had. It's a dancing film with gymnastics in it. Halfway through, this girl 100% should have died because she definitely landed on her neck. But because it's an 80s film, it's just the bad guy.
It's like the film equivalent of the Pokemon fainted, and it's like, dude, you literally just decapitated the poor sod.
Yeah, they got set on fire, and then you put an ice barrage on them, and they're a poor little Bulbasaur. Nah, they're just sleeping. They're just sleeping.
Kid's dead, son. Kid's dead.
The Pokemon god of all creation called judgment down upon your poor level 2 Rattata some way. It still in fact exists. Never mind fainted. It's still actually not atomized.
Yes, somehow. We don't know how.
And you know who still exists? AXIZ. But we'll get into that.
They do. And I think that's a really good segue for me to quickly go through the current standings. So, quick explanation of where we are currently in the world. So, because of how the LJL works, we currently actually already had 2 weeks, and tomorrow, the recording of this, well, actually, it's today. God, that's a little bit scary, guys, isn't that? That's a little bit sad to say. On the 15th of February, which is today, recording, is week 3. Now, a bit weird, because literally a week ago, just me, cool, I only got that reference. All right, I'm
not there, sorry, man.
Actually trash, okay.
Electric Boogaloo, but I don't have that.
A week ago, we actually had week 1, and then halfway through this week that we've just had was week 2, and now we're about to have week 3. We are about to get some reprieve. It is about to come in. We are about to go to a standard season session or season, I guess, where we will have weeks on weeks on weeks. Yeah, split. There we go. That's the right terminology. God, I'm going to be a great host, aren't I? So we're going to quickly do a quick rundown. This is with both week 1 and week 2. We're going to cover them slightly more in depth when we cover maybe 1 or 2 games that we'd want to talk about playing that you should also go watch. Not that we played, that we covered rather. We have something to do with it. Also, plus our week 3 games of recommendation that you should watch. We will then later in the show go into our players of the week for both week 1 and then also week 2, giving our perspectives. We'll probably also talk about maybe games that we'd recommend if you're particularly interested in following one team or one player. These are the games you should be watching for obvious reasons. And then later in the show, towards the end, we will be talking about certain metagame topics, specifically around the LJL, and then maybe obviously any other topics that come to our head. But this will be significantly shorter, relatively speaking, compared to our episode 1, because guess what? There's less for us to talk about, because in theory, if you listen to episode 1, you have a good starting point for this, because everything kind of works within itself. But if this is your first episode, welcome! We are pleased to have you, absolutely. So I will cover the first half, and then I will let one of you two lovely gentlemen cover the second half of the standings, and then we will go from there. I'll let you two fight over it, because, I mean, that's what I do. So, quickly, we have DFM, the MSI two-time play team and 3-time Worlds competitors, something wild like
quite
that.
A few times.
Yeah, definitely 2 and 2. I know that's a fact. I think they might have done 3 Worlds performance. Not sure. They're 4-0. They're doing their thing. They're winning. It's not too much to say. They're doing some questionable engages, but they're playing some really long games sometimes in scenarios where they don't need to, but they're winning. And they're doing their thing, and it's been really impressive to just kind of watch them do their thing. Week 1 was far more impressive in my eyes, but week 2 was also a very good performance, but we'll go into that later. CGA are currently 3-1. It's currently the Arya and Gango show. This Arya is definitely making a bold statement and potentially is the top mid laner for the LJL.
Nuts. He's nuts.
Yeah, he's been utterly insane this week.
Absolutely.
To actually over both, he's been just, well, go watch some of his games. He's been utterly monstrous.
Yeah, if you're interested in learning why we're giving him that kind of title, go watch
any of his games.
Watch
any of them.
Arguably all of them, because we want them views and that content. But if you want to just watch like some of the games where he's just popped off on a LeBlanc, for instance, this LeBlanc game was beautiful to watch. A masterclass.
1k damage a minute. Utterly insane.
What? Yeah, I didn't realize that. Okay, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yoshi is definitely their problem point, but potentially if they're able to catch that at this early stage, moving forward, it might be not a negative, it might be an asset moving forward.
He's got a lot to learn, but like he's stepping into the shoot.
Absolutely. We've got SHG, or the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming.
I'm so glad you've actually got that down now.
Oh, I just can look at SHG and I just know it now because I'm turning it like I got my TSM merch on. I'm repping TSM. I'm waiting for them to release some merch. I'm gonna buy it day one. Like snap.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm the one getting it wrong because I was the one who literally called them Sengoku in cast a couple of times. Like,
oh, you called? Didn't you say that as the Nexus was falling?
Yes, I did. What's it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I called them.
Worst play-by-play moment.
I'm pretty sure that I said Fukuoka Sengoku Gaming.
Yeah, and then you just have me literally listening here, just going, "That's my team. I'm the producer."
As context, like myself and Nightmare have like been kind of soft flaming Mass Swan about him not getting the name right, and then we just literally in-cast hard into the name. Like it wasn't even close.
Yeah, and it's...
So like pride comes before a fall apparently. And,
yes.
Work on that. That wasn't great.
Yeah, and I mean they've been playing really well. They had a really bad first game, to be honest, but whatever they've done, they've definitely figured out their game 2 was far better overall, and then from there they're building on momentum. The players are all playing their role. They're drafting better now. They're able to flex really wide, and while they had one bad game with J4, to be honest, it's actually still been very competitive for them.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a very talented team. Their drafts have been normally pretty good. Just the first game, a couple of Jesters.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited because, of course, it's Ramone and Tussle back as well. So, like, they're old school duo, and they're actually performing really well.
Yeah.
It's been great seeing them back on the stage.
And the last one I will talk about is Sengoku, who are currently 2-2 in the standings. They're very questionable when it comes to mid lane, but arguably they are the highest coin flip team in the region. I could 100% see them beating every team in this region. I could also see them losing to every single team in this region. It's the kind of crazy thing. I really don't know if there's another team I've ever actively watched, where I've seen them, where I'm like, I believe they could win any match. I also think they could lose every match.
The KT Arrows season 4 coin flipped their way to OGN title, but like they were coin flipping. They were the worst winner of a Korean championship ever. Yes.
There you go, listeners. Some lovely history for you.
So I think you said like questionable mid. Yeah. So I think we meant to say questionable mid game because like Pyrion is okay. Like he's been doing pretty okay. Like
he's had some good games. His LeBlanc's been pretty good damage wise. Anyway, good numbers.
So like the mid lanes, whatever. Their mid game, their decision making has just been like.
Yeah. It's so up in the air. Sometimes they figure it out and they just dominate. Other times they go. Let's just kind of mess around here. The games they have won, to their credit, well, to this player's credit, is Apperman. Apperman
dude, so good.
Is definitely picking up the slack, or maybe shot calling, or maybe just doing his own thing. When he played that Urgot specifically,
Yorick.
Oh, Yorick. Was it not? Yes, it was Yorick. Yes.
Upside and 1v2 Boogie and Ray Fark. You know what? Ray Boogie and
it was the jungler, right?
Paz.
Thank you. That's the top laner.
On B3.
Yeah, and they just did like they thought they had him. They'd already put him down 0-2 on this Yorick, and then they come in thinking they're gonna continue to clean the mess, and he just annihilates them because he picked up Trinity Force and then split pushes his way all the way to an inhibitor. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it was very good. Who wants to take it from here, or do you want me to go? I'll keep going. Screw it. I'm going to keep going.
We'll keep throwing.
This is working. We've got V3, who are also 2-2. Now, they've had a kind of weak or questionable schedule so far. They've not played a lot of the top tier teams. Those that they have played, they've lost against. When they played against the weaker teams, they have won, but it hasn't been in decisive fashion. But when I say decisive, it's weird. They're playing very fast, and they have the fastest game average out of every single team in the LJL, because their games don't go longer than 30 minutes, really. Which means they either stomp really hard, in a sense, or they lose really hard.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's very hard to say it's dominating fashion, because it's quite clearly they either win or they just lose, and that's...
And it makes it really hard to benchmark them as a team, because we're like, so they played against DFM first game, got absolutely smashed, went on to play AXIZ, smashed them, and like they've had all these kind of games. So they've played against what we think are like arguably two of the worst teams, and then they played against arguably two of the better teams, but like...
And the reverse happened for both.
We don't know where they are between them yet, so who knows?
So I think like my read on them is that they're quite dependent on Boogie to kind of get them to a point where they can sort of control objectives and run over the game. So when they've got that, they really run over it. So like their first game, this was the one where Apperman was on the Yorick and he kind of ruined them.
That's Sengoku not. That first game was
V3 versus Sengoku. Yeah.
That was week
so this is on week 2, sorry, it's week 2. And like Boogie and Paz started off really well, and then they both kind of fell out of relevance and they just fell apart. Whereas game 2, Boogie was on the Rex side, went up to like 2-0-1 lead. They literally ended up, and I kid you not, they ended up with this was a perfect game.
That was that was the first perfect game.
Where they entered the game in like 27 minutes, and they ended up with 10 kills, 11 towers, 2 inhibitors, 3 drakes, 2 heralds, and a baron to absolutely nothing from Burning Core. Yeah. That's kind of off the back of Boogie kind of getting the early game, taking all of the objective control, and like.
So I want to ask a quick question about that perfect game. That was a very early season perfect game. Okay. Do we know of any other franchised region that has had a perfect game yet?
I thought there was one in Korea the other week.
Damn it!
I think there might have been in Korea. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, damn it!
It might have been one killed. I'll have a check.
I will do the check.
We'll do it later. We'll do it later. This will be later content.
Anyway, this is a very
That might be an interesting point. That could be.
Yeah, sure.
Also, like if you want to like look at a game for like dominant drafts, that's a game to watch.
Yes.
Like a lot of that game, it's not necessarily outplays. It's just like the other. It was against Burning Core, was it?
Yeah. So it was.
They legitimately
Burning Core.
So Burning Core were like trying to engage with a Varasol, and like they just. That
was it.
Or not. They had a Varasol, and then like every time it was pressed, you had like the Orncorn come in. And it was like Well, guess the fight's over.
Talking of burning,
They just never fight.
yeah, and talking of burning core, they're currently 1 and 3 in the standings. These are on our power level, on our tier list. When we did that in episode 1, they were 7th. They are currently tied for second last at the moment.
So we got that about right.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Well, tied six technically. To be honest, we were very impressed with Ray Farkey in week 1.
Yeah.
But week 2, he force picked Darius twice, and game 1 was very unimpressive. And game 2, while better, was not on the same level of his week 1 performance.
No. Can I jump in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as some context, Ray Farkey's favorite champion, his comfort pick, his pocket pick is Darius. So it was very much a sort of confidence thing of him bringing it out. And the second game, so this was versus Crest Gaming Act, who, as we've said, have been absolutely insane, specifically Arya and Gango. And even in that game was so close to Ray Farkey or Darius absolutely running over that game. He was inches away from 1v5ing several team fights, but there was some great flashes, some great stopwatches, and just some sheer dumb luck kind of let people get out on slivers of HP. So yeah, the first Darius game was a bit atrocious. Frankly, it was a bit, well, not atrocious, but he didn't really do anything. The second game, I could understand it, but they just kind of got outplayed. And I think Nightmare we had a conversation about it afterwards, where he was just sort of talking about how part of the problem with Darius at the minute is there are so many ways to kind of prevent him from resetting. Yeah. And that game just showed it off, because as good as Ray Farkey played, and he did actually have a fairly interesting, fairly good games, and he got into fights and did a fair amount of damage. It wasn't enough because there were so many tools to stop him resetting.
Yeah, Darius is this odd champion where he needs to reset. He's not really great without it.
Is there anything else you guys want to kind of talk about for burning core in general, as opposed specifically less on Ray Farkey, more around the whole team in general?
Yeah, good call.
I think that Proud played well. He's the new support of Afrika fame. Yeah, he played a really good thrash game. His hook champion's been pretty good. So he's the player. So Ray Farkey and Proud are the guys I've got my eyes on, and that's about it for me.
I will shout out Once as well, because I think Once has actually genuinely been very good. So he had a Gragas game in week 1 where he and Proud just CC locked beautiful combos. And he also had a Shinzao game in the second game versus Crest Gaming, where he went off to 5-0. He was running over the early game. He got into Yoshi's jungle, took him out, took first blood, killed Set as well. So Once has been really good as well. So I think Once, Proud, Ray Farkey have had really good moments.
Okay, interesting notes. This is now the team that I think we're all very sad is this low down, and it's taken us this long to talk about. Rascal, Jester. I think we're all secretly kind of rooting for this team. I want to hand it over to you guys. They're currently 1 and 3. They've played all of the top 4 teams. They came out 1-3. Actually, kind of impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm going to jump into this because you took so much on Burning Core. Really. Honestly, I feel watch any of these guys' games and you'll see what we're talking about. I think that Arts, the AD carry, he was of Crest Gaming last year. They made the semifinals. They finished 3rd. He is going Super Saiyan. This guy is nuts. He's playing Ashe, which there was one game from AXIZ when they played it, but this guy is picking out Ashe, very nearly winning games solo. And they've been really interesting to watch, just because they have taken it to all of these top teams. They were so they played against DetonatioN FocusMe, they played against Crest, who they won against, they played against the Hawks, and they played against Sengoku, and unluckily, they played against Sengoku in the one game they had a good draft. The one game they had a good draft, it was against...
They coin flipped, and they got heads, and they called heads. So, Sengoku can be anybody.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll talk to them about them a bit more a bit later. But these guys are really.
We will indeed be talking about them a lot more later. And the last and final team, who we will also be talking about later, is AXIZ. It's sad to call it and then for it to happen, because you don't want it to actually happen. There's still hope for Burning Core, right? They're 1-3. They're not quite 7th, yes. AXIZ are 0-4. They've been doing some pretty good drafts. Their comps have been fine. It's just, they're not at that same level that the rest of the region is. It's almost like a challenger team, a decent challenger team, is now coming into an actual established franchise, and now it's like, oh guys, we're not quite that good. That's the impression I get from their games, sadly.
It's weird, right? Because if you turn the nameplates off and you look at their drafts, I arguably think they have some of the best drafts in the region. I think
they've been really creative.
Yeah.
Really creative. Yeah, so they've been like the only team to pick up Rise in a lot of ways in terms of like playing it in the mid lane and trying to go through a 1-3-1. But like as you're saying,
they played Tristana mid in a great spot.
Yeah, but it's not clicking. It's not clicking. Like they're skipping some steps when it comes to vision control and objective setup.
Yeah,
and like it's hamstringing.
They also commonly very rarely lose lane. It's when the game goes out of losing lane,
especially bot lane. They've been
they have like
top lane. They basically lost one game off of like the guy
Unyang getting slapped by Ebby.
Just getting slapped by Ebby. Yeah,
but like it's Ebby, like.
Yeah, exactly. Just
right, you've got to lose to the best top laner, arguably in the region,
so like,
and even then, his other games haven't been that bad. So,
I mean, like, so as a kind of example, so in their sort of first game of week 2, they ran a Tristana mid. So Gary was on Tristana mid. Hoglet, their jungler, had a Karthus. And what would happen was that the combo was that Tristana would go in with the mid lane combo where she'd rocket jump in, she'd throw an explosive charge down, rapid fire, blow up the explosive charge, and that's quite a lot of damage with an ignite as well, but it's never quite enough to kill, it's just enough to force someone out lane until you sort of like factor in the Requiem as well. And we saw a couple we saw that combo pulled off once or twice, and that's really creative, that's really cool. But
like it was also against DFM.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they just kind of like, they were always in position to punish and clean up.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first time we saw him go in on Sirius, he was playing Karma, which is already pretty hard to kill. Like jungler and support come in and make it a 1-for-1. Congrats, your combo has been nullified.
It was a lot of that. It was a lot of macro stuff that they were definitely not on the same level, and that's it at the end. Last point on AXIZ.
Last point is that they've had an easy schedule, actually.
Yes, they have.
They played against Burning Core and they played against V3. Admittedly, they played against 2 top teams as well in DFM and the Hawks, but like they've arguably played against 2 lower tier teams in Burning Core and V3.
Yeah, and one of their and they've got like the Jesters to come up against, who are hungry with a huge thirst for wins. But with that in mind, let's discuss some of the games from week 1 and week 2 that we are going to, 1, recommend to our listeners and viewers out there, and 2, let's give some insight. Let's kind of look a little bit into. Let's spend a little bit of time actually talking about these games. This first game from week 1 is going to be Sengoku Gaming versus Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming. God, it's still hard when it's you just look at SHG and it's like, oh, that's a struggle.
What teams could this be?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this was the official LJL's game of the week, and it was also our game of the week. So it was really nice that we unintentionally did that. We announced we were casting this and saying it was game of the week before we had seen that it was their game of the week. So it was good that we had the same wavelength. We're on the same kind of mindset as management over there, which is good. Quick rundown of what the matchup looks like. We have Apperman in the top lane for Sengoku, Blank in the jungle, Perry in the mid lane, Yutori Murashi, right?
It's not right.
God damn it! I was doing it right on the cast, and then we got NT on as a support. For the Hawks, we have Dasher in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Ramune in the mid lane, Honey as the carry, and Poo as the support. There we go, gentlemen.
I have a lot to say on this game. So, like, do you want?
You go first. You say all your thoughts, and we'll chime in.
Right. So, obviously, we said the players. We haven't said the champions, and that's actually a lot of where my points come from here. So, I was talking a little bit, alluded to this earlier, about Sengoku having like their one good draft game versus Rascal Jester. So, this is obviously not their one good draft game. It's not great. So, important things about this draft. Sengoku played Kennen in the top lane, Rek'Sai, Akali in the mid jungle, and Misfortune, Tom Kench as a bot lane. So, you play against the Hawks, and actually it doesn't necessarily matter what their team comp is, because Sengoku have like legitimately no engage besides his Like Kennen has to ult like 4 people, or they die horribly because, okay, going into the other team, the Hawks have a Dasher on Vladimir, and they have Aphelios and LeBlanc, who are just those three champions do a lot of damage in general. And what we saw in this game is that Apperman had some really good he actually had like a 1v1 solo kill versus the Vladimir in the top lane, and he finished 2-1-2 across this game. But like basically Sengoku could never fight properly because they just didn't have engage. You've got a Tom Kench, like he does nothing in terms of engage, and Rek'Sai has single target engage, can't pin down more than one person.
You're kind of relying on Flash for it too, right? At least when it comes to team fighting.
This was also a game where Pyrion in the mid lane for Sengoku was able to get the first Akali and went 1-5-3. And this was partly because he is against one of the gods of the mid lane that we're going to say for the LJL, being Ramune. And he went, and Ramune respectively went 3, 1, and 4. And I believe when he died, it was because it was like 2 people came into the mid lane or something.
Yeah, it ended up being a trade. It was for first blood. No, it was not first. It was like blood. It was, so it wasn't. So that was what happened.
You told me actually had a good play on the MF, didn't he? Caught him out.
Oh, was that it?
Right. So he threw a Make It Rain down, and Akali went in for her only kill of the game on a Shuriken flare. And then NT flat, and so he was under tower in the mid lane. NT on Tom Kench flashes to save his erstwhile mid laner who's gone so deep. And devours him, and then what happens is you get a 2-for-1 special with the Tom Kench and the Akali going down to. I want to say something like it was probably, I think it might have been Tussle and Honey, something like that.
They were like, anyway, it's just a big mid lane brawl, and like, I feel like, so you told me Ashi, he's been really consistent overall, playing team fights really well.
Yes.
And in this game, he was set up to succeed, and like the one big team fight where they were trying to go towards a dragon fight, Ramune sneaks in behind Vision and just one-shots him, and it's like, oh no. Our team with no engage has been waiting for this one chance to fight, and suddenly we can't.
I do want to maybe say this was Sengoku's first game of this split for week 1. This Hawks had just come off a loss to Crest Gaming Act, and they definitely had as we've said in our rundown, they definitely had a poor game first one. Sengoku potentially could have been suffering from that same kind of coming in a bit cold, being on stage, everything else, and then that not completely giving them the pass for that, because obviously the way the way that Apperman was playing, it wasn't affecting him, and the way
he's been
and arguably the way Blank was playing, it was fine. It quite clearly wasn't affecting him. So just shrug your shoulders at that one.
I think arguably this game is like all down to draft, and it shows like how the Hawks drafted well. Just Sengoku and a couple of other teams would find out, like, if you're not drafting Engage and you're trying to fight around dragons, you cannot play that way.
Yes.
You have to have something like a Nautilus or a Leona, which is why they've been like up in 100% pick ban.
And that's just kind of the nature of it. Like, and also like Sengoku are pulling in certain like picks actively. Like they always want to play engage comps a lot, so they are always up for fighting. And if you do not want to fight, they will try and fight you. And if you don't want to fight, well, they get to take your turret and the dragons and all this other stuff. And they're aggressive enough where it kind of forces people to respect that. Initialize, have you got any thoughts for that game? Any last thoughts before we go on to our next game?
Yeah, I think there was also just like some really silly kind of what's the word, like oversights by Sengoku Gaming. There was one point where Blank had Ramune on Tremor Sense.
Yep.
And then this LeBlanc could find their way off Vision in this bush sort of, so it's in the bush behind Red Buff. So LeBlanc's managed to find a way in there. She's on Tremor Sense, and you told me how she walks up to the bush and gets absolutely nuked by this LeBlanc. And like that kind of thing happened a couple of times that game, where just like serious like brain fades happened, and they got caught out, and suddenly they're like one man down, and then Honey was like literally playing Rick Moranis and shrinking people's health bars. And it was like pretty. You can't see how really bad. That was a little bit more subtle.
There is a clip we need to go find of Sam saying, "Honey, I shrunk their health bars."
It's on YouTube. We can probably find it on the Twitch archive. I'll find it and dig it up at some point.
Oh, it's hilarious. I just lost my shit, dude. As kind of so between Honey and Ramune kind of doing a lot of damage, but there was also points where Sengoku Gaming kind of allowed them to, where they were just kind of
putting themselves in really stupid positions, a little bit like where Misfortune walks into Misfortune, walks into rather the LeBlanc, having known she was there on Tremor Sense. Like, that's not good enough when we had you ranked as actually probably a decent playoffs team. You can't be doing that kind of stupid basic error.
Yeah, it was definitely unfortunate. Maybe first game jitters, maybe a bunch of other stuff. They've been performing better as the series, as the split has gone on. So and definitely one of the teams, as we've said, we think they could beat everyone, but we also think they could lose against everyone because of how the nature of their games have gone. So it will be interesting to watch. The other game we're definitely recommending you should watch, and arguably I think this is a far more interesting game as a whole to watch, from pick and ban phase to the end, is Crest Gaming versus Rascal Jesters. Now, Rascal Jesters win this game, but it's how they win is very interesting. I'll quickly run down the match, and in the top lane we have Nap. In the jungle we have Yoshi. In the mid lane we have Arya. In the bot lane we have Gango, and in support we have Grendel. For Rascal Jester we have Kokog in the top lane, Hachamacha in the jungle, Ninja in the mid lane, Art as their carry, and Vivid in the support role. Who wants to take this one first, or do you want me to go first? And then
I can always talk.
I'll do this one. So, like, I kind of wrote a roundup of this week. This was stuck up on Reddit, and I kind of had this one as sort of like a bonus game to keep an eye on. I think it's a really interesting game to talk about. So we can talk about. But effectively, the Jesters had just lost to Sengoku Gaming, where they'd kind of like Sengoku Gaming had taken a while to close out, but they'd run this ridiculous composition of like Kiana jungle, but then like Rumble and Ornn and Senna, so they had all these carpets of doom to layer on whatever blank
Rumble support as well, actually. So.
Yeah, Rumble support, and they had a Zoe with the infinite poke. It was, and you can never go into the fog of war. It
was disgusting, utterly disgusting comp. And like Rascal, it's the one game where Rascal just haven't looked competitive.
Had a really good
game. The game, so they came off that ridiculous game, reset, and then set up this kind of absolutely amazing performance with Art on Ashe and Vivid on Nautilus. And I think Art went, hang on, let me get the match history up. Art went 6-0-15, didn't die despite, I think it was like 3 teleports bot. They all get parties all the time. And this dude just could not die. It was absolutely amazing. Did really, really good stuff. And then not just that, we had Ninja in the mid lane for Rascal Jester was running a Soraka versus a really fed Kiana. So it's just versus Arya as well. And we've just been singing Arya's praises, right? And Arya went off to, I think he hit like 5-0. So he was 6. Was he 6?
6-0, yeah. I checked it.
Wow. So he was at 6-0. And Ninja only died once, despite Arya having gone in on him multiple times, like diving over walls, throwing every ability at him, flashing on him. Had loads of items, and Ninja basically had this amazing ability to sort of like sidestep, throw down the right silence, just avoid dying. So like some really clutch survival skills from the Soraka as well to stop the game snowball, to like stop Arya hard carrying that game.
He showed some really good awareness of putting the silence field down on top of the Kiana as she'd all in on Soraka, to kind of like stop him immediately shunting him into the wall, because then like you have to take a step back and fire at a different angle, which wouldn't put him into the wall, and like just making sure like the silence field was used to full effect.
Yeah, it was really good stuff. But, it was just specifically Art on Ashe. He's had a couple very good games on Ashe now. I think he had a second one in week 2 where he nearly carried the team. But he was just very, very good in that ball, and it was kind of like, this is versus Gango as well, who is ex-KT roster, is, you know, was known as kind of an AD carry prodigy over in Korean solo queue. And this is the only game where, and this is the only game we've seen in this kind of this split really where he's looked bad. Like, was this game where he got run over in the bot lane by I. It was superb stuff.
The other thing to note here is Kokog has an amazing game on set, going 6-1-9, and Hachamacha for himself, while he died the most on his team, he went 4-4-11 on J4, and he was everywhere on that map. Crest just couldn't go anywhere without Jarvan always being at the Baron, Dragon, the Herald. He was ganking every lane. How do you think you get an Ashe to 6-15? Well, guess what? J4 is there a lot lot of the time helping out with Vivid's assistance, obviously.
And I think this was the game. If you want to see a defensive set performance,
That was right.
this is the game to watch. So I think this solidified people's conscience, where it's like, if you are against a single threat team or one fed person who can carry a team fight, in this case the 6 Nokiani, who had the entirety of Crest's kills, you can just showstopper them out of the fight. And that's what happened in this really big tumultuous team fight. The first big shutdown on Suarez Kiana. And even though like he still had a great game, but like after a certain while, like the Death Ball, like the Exodia comp came together, and then like this set was just like, nope, you're out. Goodbye.
Yeah. And that was the nature.
It was like, so there is, I think, the one that Nightmare is alluding to is there was a mid lane fight around. I can't get there.
It was Dragon. It was a Dragon fight. They all run down, and then he just runs in, just pulls her over the wall, outside of everything else, and then Art the whole time is just going, I just kill everybody? Is that okay, guys?
Yeah. No, there were a couple of fights where it's like, oh, Kiana's dealt with, have fun.
Yeah, and there was another one where effectively she came, like, it was like...
She was coming from like top river through the mid
and set just like like as she's literally mid ultimate just pushes her away. It's superb stuff.
And highly recommend you check out those 2 games first for week 1. So just to repeat, if you're not quite sure, Sengoku Gaming versus the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming, and that is Crest Gaming Act versus Rascal Jester. There are other games there we would love to tell you about, but they're the top 2 we're going to highly recommend you watch from that week.
Could I recommend one more just for first?
Yeah, quick, go for it. Go.
So V3 versus AXIZ first game. It's a stomp by V3. It's like 23 minutes long. So like if you're not into stomps, it's not your game. But it's a really cool comp. In the Boogie in the jungle runs an Echo. It's Nocturne mid as well, and it's just a really cool quirky dive comp where it's just balls to the wall the entire game, and V3 run the game over. It's great. So Nocturne mid working. So Verdius, wherever you are, if you're listening, go check that one out. It's for you.
I mean, it's still a fun game to watch, honestly. It's the fastest game also still of the LJL, and one of the fastest games of the whole of most of the major
23 minutes dead, pretty much.
Yeah
Ridiculous.
23 1 second is
it's an insane game, and it's also one of the fastest games. I went around and started checking. I didn't check every region for time reasons, but it's got one of the fastest game ends of in general in all of the franchised regions. So it's definitely a good game to watch for week 2, because we've got 2 weeks to update you lovely people on. Week 2, we're gonna talk about Rascal Jester, because they do some really good games, and this one is Rascal Jester versus DetonatioN FocusMe, the kings of the LJL. Again, quick rundowns, just so everybody is familiar. For Rascal Jester, we have Cog in the top lane, Hachimacha in the jungle, we have Ninja in the mid lane, Art as their carry, Vivid as support, and for DFM, if you don't know already, you're gonna come to learn, it's Ebby in the top lane, Steel in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, Yutapong in the bot lane, and Gang as their support. Take it away, gentlemen, honestly.
So I was just looking to see where the fastest matches are. Unfortunately, there was actually a Cloud9 beat FlyQuest momentarily within 30 minutes. So, yeah. Okay, let me just
Do you want to run over
That's not what I was speaking about, but yes, Rascal Jester DFM. I'll start it, and then you guys can pick up. So this is
sorry.
This is the really interesting game. So Rascal Jester decided to draft completely differently how everybody else had been doing that. And Nightmare had been talking to Initialize and myself about this previously, saying and hypothetically saying, "Oh, is this the way you actually beat DetonatioN FocusMe? Is you just ban their comfort champs, and then you just go, you can have all the OP picks because we can have the OP picks as well, and we'll just bash them together." This is where you have Ebby on Akali, Syros on Syndra, Yutapong on Aphelios, but then you also get Cog on the opposite side with Ornn, and you have it was just kind of a wild game, honestly.
Okay, sorry. I did that thing like I just kept clicking related links and it just kind of sorry. Yeah, so I've got the page up now. So yeah, effectively, my theory was that Siros demands so many target bans in the Heimerdinger and the Karma,
which didn't come in the Karma.
The Karma didn't come in, but like the Heimerdinger is still kind of
obviously.
Yeah. So like at that point, it's like, well, if we're gonna give up so many random bans anyway, how about we just like ban like the random. How about we just like leave the power picks up and handshake? So this game, DFM get their hands on Syndra and Akali, which is like nigh unheard of.
And the Felios as well.
And the Felios too. So like the S tier solo lanes and
I forgot to say DFM win. Sorry.
DFM win this game, yeah, but it is actually really hard for. It goes to 43 minutes 26 seconds, which is really long. And one of the reasons that is that DFM get their hands on all the power picks, but like they draft Trundle and Taric, which are really good defensively, but like effectively mean that they just don't have engage again. And we talked about this a little bit in regards to Sengoku, but like if you can't engage, then like you have to play really well around the map to like force people into fights, because like you can't force them with your champions, you force them with objectives instead. And like it ends up like they start fighting around Baron, they start betting out TPs, but then they have to get peeled off Baron, and then Rascal Jester get themselves a Baron, and they make things really awkward. And then the end of the game is a base race. It's a double TP into the base where they end the game.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like,
of course.
It's like, put it this way, DFM, their comp was actually, it was doing a lot of damage in the team fights, but
couldn't finish anything up.
No.
They just couldn't initiate fights, even like when they were running forward Righteous Glory Taric and stuff like that. So it was late game problem solving which solved it, and just kind of the cerebral play rather than they dug themselves a really deep hole with their draft in some regards.
Yeah, so like it was one of the things we kind of discovered was, so as a kind of context, Rascal Jester had Ornn, they had Nautilus, they had Rek'Sai.
And Cassiopeia there is relevant for team fights.
So that's what it is. But I'm talking specifically on a particular front. So what would happen is they had Rek'Sai, Nautilus, and Ornn, all pretty good face checkers. Rek'Sai's got the Tremor sense, which means you kind of it's
don't have to.
They're moving. Then the others are like really tanky. Like they both went Stoneplate. Rek'Sai had GA, Knight's Vow as well. So like a certain amount of tankiness, and so the limited CC that DFM had, so maybe they land a Syndra Scatter the week, or they've got a Taric Dazzle land, or maybe they kind of just about get a
Trundle Pillar, maybe.
Trundle Pillar just about. Was a CC wouldn't last long enough for them to actually blow up one of the tanks who could then escape with Searing Charge or a Tunnel or a Dredge Line or a Flash if they had to. So actually it was all well and good. So when they were they tried to pull the map apart with Ebi on Akali kind of splitting and the 4 baiting Baron. And the bait on the Baron is like they would basically draw in a TP and then never be able to the 4 would never be able to turn on Rascal Jester, actually CC someone long enough for them to actually kill them. And so this game kind of dragged out to the point where like Ninja ended up with a lot of damage items, as did Art. And it ended up being this ridiculous sort of late game problem solving stuff as Nymeria was talking about. Basically because they just could not kill one of the people.
Art in this game is also playing Varus, which I believe, if I'm correct in my memory, is the first Varus we see in the LJL.
We saw another one, I can't remember.
Is this an old AXIZ thing where like
I think Art played it again before, might have done it in the first week as well. Let me see if we can find out.
Oh wait, no, Burning Core Yuhi played it.
Cool, thank you.
There we go, that's where I'm wrong. There we go, my bad. But yeah, no, that was a really interesting game. Nymeria, have you got any other points you want to mention on this game?
So I think just going back to like the whole like engage versus other stuff thing, effectively like Rascal Jester had managed to put themselves into a really good position. They got the Baron, they'd done a load of other stuff, and then they tried to engage with a proactive Ornn, and they immediately lost the fight. Because what this kind of showed was that DFM they had a lot of damage. They had these prime carries and all this other stuff, and Ebi played really well on the Akali. Like he was assassinating a lot of people. Only died the one time as well. I think he went 3-1 and 6 or something like that. But like if you engage into a team with no engage, you've already initiated the fight. So if you don't blow them up on the first part of it, then they still get to fight and turn around with their damage. And when you have kind of pseudo disengage and Taric ultimate and stuff like that, that becomes quite a daunting task, because then you have to kill them before the Taric ult comes out and stuff like that. So for me, this is another game which I'd watch just to show like how the LJL is drafting in regard to things, and like some things that we might see adapted later in a couple of weeks as well, just in terms of engage and disengage.
Sure, that makes sense. Our second game for week 2 that we highly recommend you watch is the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming versus AXIZ. Now,
You sure?
Yes.
yes, 100.
We're not talking about the other one with.
No.
The other Rascal. Okay.
The last game of the week.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. So, just to refresh, for the Hawks, we have Dasher in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Ramune in the mid lane, Honey as their carry, and Pooh as the support. And for AXIZ, in case you're not quite sure, I hope you do now, it'll be Enyang in the top lane, Hoglet in the jungle. Oh god, I hate trying to figure this out. Gadu. Yeah, please.
Nope.
Yeah,
Gadiadu.
Gadiadu.
Yeah. There we go.
As their mid laner. I will learn this. I will be able to pronounce every single player's name perfectly by the end of this split, I promise. Hyde as their carry and Corporal as their support.
Yeah.
Nightmare, please begin this,
Yeah,
please.
so this game is like, so the Hawks drafted so they had this massive team fight comp of Ornn.
Hawks win. Sorry.
The Hawks win, yes.
They
So the Hawks draft Ornn, Rumble, Senna. But on the other side, AXIZ have J4, Orianna, and Aphelios, with an Aatrox in the top lane as well. So basically, this game is like who can out-wombo each other first. And if you turn off the nameplates, actually, I really like AXIZ's comp. So just from top to the bottom, they've got Aatrox, Jarvan, Orianna, Aphelios, and Thresh. And they jumped out to an early lead in this game.
Yeah, they did.
And they were playing really well around about. So there was the first big fight came around when AXIZ started up the Herald pretty early into the game, and the Hawks came to contest. Ramune gets caught out with the Shockwave, and he dies before he gets to use his ultimate. And then at that point, it's like, oh, okay, right. Gadiadu manages to leverage kind of the pressure which comes off of, the early game, gets a good CS advantage, good XP advantage, and it means that they often have priority in the mid lane or wherever Gadiadu is. And then they manage to get to the objective first, set up, and then try and take a couple of good fights. They have like 2 or 3 good team fights in a row using their wombo combo. But then, like, effectively, one point in the game,
Just got 22 minutes.
Yeah, the Hawks managed to set up for a dragon fight and get to the objective before AXIZ get there. Tussle flash engages on Jin Zhao onto Gadiadu, knocks him up with the Jin Zhao ultimate, which goes into a Senna ult into a Rumble ult, and Gadiadu dies before getting a good ult off. And then it's like, wait, then after that point, the shoot's on the other foot, and the Hawks get to every objective fight first. And it's a really interesting game to watch, like how, if you're playing these wombo comps, which like need teams to be clumped up and kind of be funneled into you so you can kind of get these AoE combos down, how do you go about muscling out the objective control and the territory control when you're going towards a Herald and a Dragon and something like that? And actually, like, Hawks effectively outplayed this game, but AXIZ, if you turn the nameplates off, had a really interesting comp. And actually, even though they're 0-4, parts of this game are why we think that they could come back with some good drafts and good play.
This is a really interesting game. Specifically for those reasons, right? Like, so actually, for a long time, like the AXIZ have about a 2,000 gold lead actually, but the problem is it just doesn't go anywhere. And if you look over at the sort of the team gold average in the match history, like it's quite sparse on the objectives, and then suddenly there's this sort of snap when the Hawks do get advantage, and within the space of about 5 minutes, they take practically every objective on the map in really rapid fashion and kind of close out pretty swiftly once they do get the advantage. That's kind of the big difference.
Yeah, Hawks are definitely one of these teams, when they get a slight advantage, they exploit it as far, or arguably maybe better than any other team currently.
Between them and DFM.
Well, the problem is DFM had that game in week 1. It was their second game
that we just talked about as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like...
My read on DFM is this, and it's basically that they play their early games really well, and then they hit the mid game, and there is this moment of overconfidence which happened in like 2 out of their 4 games now.
Kind of
their Burning Core game was very
close.
Where they kind of get it wasn't really that close.
No, it wasn't technically. It could have been closer, but
but they were kind of so far ahead from just outlaning, right? But they hit this mid game point where they just kind of do like get cocky and get punished for it, and then they kind of have to go, right, hang on, solve this, and then they just play better and they come together as some late game macro and good synergy.
Specifically in the Burning Core game though, like you said, like they're winning 3 lane and all this other stuff and blah blah blah. Like Ray Farkey was like 2 kills up onto Ebby with the GP versus Aatrox matchup, so like an already an outscale matchup. Then later into that game, they go to gank the Gangplank like 1v2. They get counter ganked. Both of them die 0-2, and it's like, oh, that's a whoopsie.
No, it's
But it's DFM, so they end up still winning because
DFM wins Ebby ended up like 7-3 or something. So he really
Ebby can go 0-3 and then still get 7 kills in hard carry. It's like that man's a god. But this is a really interesting game. Like the lad said, to quickly round up, if you want to see engages, you want to see a quick turnaround, and also how team fights can really turn the idea of a gold lead and a game completely on its head, because AXIZ were in control, defiantly in control. Did one bad team fight, all went wrong. Softbank also turned on the pedal really quickly, especially when the gold was almost even. Didn't matter to Softbank. They were like, we're ahead now because we have the better comp. With that in mind, we're going to quickly cover 3 games for week 3 that we want to recommend that you watch in general.
I really recommend one other game for week 2. That's so fun.
Go ahead.
I can't believe we haven't talked about it. Like, how have we not talked about Crest Gaming versus Burning Core? Like, that was literally over a kill a minute. Like, with Arya going mental on LeBlanc, 1.1k damage. We saw Gango on Draven going 11-2 on 9. Like, that whole game was such an exciting one.
No,
it's as far as something to go on. It was such a fun game to watch. So I can recommend that one as like a game if you want to see like some serious mechanical edge of your seat, really close team fights. That was absolutely the game to watch.
I think I went for interesting games in terms of like the what they mean for the league, rather than like, oh crap, this guy's really mechanically good. But yeah, that is a fun game.
Yeah, if you want to watch Arya,
a really good like a game to like enjoy, to like just good fun League of Legends. That's a great one. Just so many kills, lots of clever plays. It is really back and forth. Burning Core start well, but then kind of like Draven gets a cash in. Just such a cool game. I really recommend that one.
Agreed. Yeah, totally do check that game out. Absolutely. A very good one. That is Crest Gaming versus Burning Core. And as I've said countless times, you are able to watch all of our games casted live on Twitch and YouTube, and all of our videos all of the past games are also on our YouTube channel. 3 games we're going to recommend you watch for week 3 if you're interested in the narrative in general. It's going to be V3 Esports versus Rascal Jesters. Now, why are we recommending this one, Nymera?
It's a benchmark, effectively. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. V3 have played 2 arguably top teams in DFM, and Sengoku lost to them both. Played 2 arguably bottom teams in Burning Core and AXIZ, and won them both. This game is like the battle of like where is everyone in between those 2 things? And actually for Rascal Jester, we think that they might be slightly better than mid-table as well. They could push up into the higher echelons of the league. So for me, this is going to be really interesting to see, like, show up. Who's got the bigger stick here?
Very good reason. For the next team, we have the Fukuoka Softbank game, Softbank Hawks Gaming. It's in that order. It's always Hawks, then Gaming, not Gaming Hawks. But then I guess that does make some sense. With feathers. Yeah, well, it is gaming with feathers. You got to get the thumbs as well. Versus DFM, and I'm assuming this is going to be the official broadcast game of the week, as well as potentially we need to discuss it between the 3 of us before we do go live. It's probably going to be our game of the week. It's definitely my game of the week.
Definitely mine of the week. There we go. Discussed it. It's our game of the week.
There we go. It's also our game of the week. These are arguably the top 2 teams in the league playing against each other. And it's going to be a really interesting place. Softbank genuinely are a team that could snatch a win from DFM. But if DFM win, it's going to be interesting how they get that win and the story that comes from that. Both ways, we get an interesting outcome, and there's definitely going to be a conversation topic. And it's probably going to be a game we're going to recommend you go watch even after we've done it, because it's probably going to have very interesting points.
Watch it multiple times, we get more views.
Do that.
I think this one probably needs to be put into context with the third game we want to recommend as well, which will be Detonation FocusMe versus Sengoku Gaming.
Just takes the host duty, doesn't he?
Yeah, like I know. But just thinking specifically because this will basically say, at the minute DFM are undefeated, right? And this is like,
sure.
And these are two of the teams we reckon could absolutely take a game off DFM, and we've already kind of talked about where DFM have had some mid-game weaknesses, have kind of drafted themselves into a hole in one game a little bit, and this week will tell us potentially whether those holes can actually be exploited. And will DFM drop games, and are they fallible? How far ahead of the rest of the league are they? Are they actually that far ahead?
There is a small asterisk, obviously, for this third game of DFM versus Sengoku Gaming, or Detonation FocusMe versus Sengoku Gaming, rather. Full names. I like to try and do full names when I'm doing this. Sengoku, as we've previously said in the standings, they are the highest coin flip team, and I genuinely believe if anyone's going to have a 20-minute stomp, 30-minute stomp over DFM, it will be Sengoku. Because they could either win in 30 minutes, but they could also lose in 30 minutes. I genuinely think they could do some wild stuff.
Yeah, V3 are the guys that tend to like lose quickly.
Oh,
quickly.
True.
Like,
we've already seen V3 though against Detonation, and that we already know how that went.
They lost horribly. It was a massacre. So
first game as well of the LJL.
It was. Oh yeah.
Try to forget that one.
Yeah, but like I think it is okay to talk about these two like in comparison because like three of these teams have a slightly different take on the meta and what they're trying to do. Obviously, like DFM are playing some really weird things top lane. Like they're playing the Yorick, and they also played like the Cannon game as well, which we haven't seen elsewhere in the LJL. DFM are picking stuff like Karma and Heimerdinger in the mid lane. They haven't played a LeBlanc game yet. Zeros is not going towards that. On the other side, Ramune is playing like all of the aggressive mid game chip picks like LeBlanc and
Rumble
as well, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then we've got like Sengoku again, who kind of like trying to play some. They're really sticking to the Rek'Sai in the jungle, whereas DFM are trying to stick towards the Jarvan.
Pyrion is still also playing that LeBlanc as well, so
yeah.
Slightly similar, but different because obviously, but like Apperman's playing
weird stuff.
Yeah, Apperman's playing whatever he wants to play and will commonly try and carry his team.
Yeah, so for me, it's as opposed to it just being about the standings, which, you know, obviously very relevant as well. It is very much about the standings. It's like, which of these teams with their micro meta that they've developed has a head start on the other teams? Because this could really affect how teams prepare for each other going into playoffs, because we assume that these guys are going to make it there as well.
Totally agree. But with that in mind, I think that's enough of us talking about games of the future. Let's talk about some players specifically now. We're going to talk about our players of the week for week 1. Now, how we're going to do this is we're each going to run down our players from each of the roles that they're in. And then after we've each announced them, we will then give our individual player of the week. And then we'll have a bit of discussion. So it's going to be a little bit of firing out everything and then a bit of discussion. And then we will probably do the exact same for week 2 as well. So for myself, I have picked, for the top lane, I've picked Ray Farkey. In the jungle, I picked Tussle. In the mid lane, I picked Arya. In the bot lane, I picked support. In the bot lane, I picked support. No, in the bot lane, I picked.
He carries hard important. Just in context, Max Swan is a support mate.
I am.
This is exactly how he feels. Like
yeah,
AD carry.
I have to carry my AD carries or my carries in general. It doesn't matter what it is. So, in the bot, but for the bot, I picked Honey, and for the support, I picked Gang.
Yeah.
And Nightmare, if you want to take it next.
We're not saying a player of the week yet.
No, that's at the end.
Sure, cool. Okay, so in the top lane, I also picked Ray Farkey. In jungle, I picked Steel. In mid lane, I picked Arya again. In bot lane, I picked Archer. And support, I picked Proud.
Okay. Yeah. And Initialize, go ahead.
So I'm joining you two with Ray Farkey in the top lane. Fantastic week 1. Once in the jungle, I put Arya in mid lane along with you two again. We were all in agreement on that one. I had Yutapong and Gang.
You joined me with the support.
I did.
Yeah. Smart man. So, my player of the week, Actually, no. I'm going to let you two take your players of the week because I think it works better if I go last, actually, for this one. So initialize. We'll go from down up this way. So your player of the week, please.
So I had Ray Farkey. So Ray Farkey in week 1 had a phenomenal set game versus AXIZ, and then in a game very surprisingly close mid-game versus DFM, he was on Gangplank where he was doing mad amounts of damage, had Trinity Force, Essence Reaver, all the damage he needed, was trying desperately to carry that game after a couple really clutch 2v2 top jungle fights that went Burning Causeway. I think he's had a really great week.
Okay, and my player of the week was Arya, so the mid lane for CGA. We talked a little bit about him on his Kiana against Rascal Jester. That was one of the week 1 games that we recommended. His other game was the Zoe game, if I remember.
Yeah, he was. It was really good. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
it was with Gango on Senna.
And that was against the Hawks. They won against the Hawks with him playing Zoe. And this guy just he was doing everything in his power to carry his team. He was just blowing people up left, right, and center. Some really impressive games.
So you've just had 2 people say people that, well, we all had on our list. So everyone would expect me to probably say either Arya or Ray Farkey here, or maybe something random like Gang. And everyone's like, yeah, makes sense. Or even my own individual one. No, I'm going for someone that's not even on my list, but I have a reason for it. These 2 already have an idea of what my reason is, so that it makes a bit more sense. I picked Syros as my player for week 1. Let me explain, because I didn't say Syros, I said Arya for my mid laner. So why am I saying Syros? So Syros played Heimerdinger and kind of stomped V3, went 3-0-8, and then played Karma. Now, he didn't stomp. I'm using air quotations for those listening to the podcast. Stomp. He went 0-2-7. But what he was doing in that game was kind of absurd. He also did. He also could have played the Heimerdinger. Just decided not to. Wanted to pull out the Karma. Bit of context. Every game that they play, that Crest, was it Crest or was it V3 made the finals against DFM for the summer, right?
Yes, they did.
The first 2 bans were always Heimer, Karma. Guess what? People don't do it. What am I going to do? I'm going to pull out my Heimer, I'm going to pull out my Karma, and I'm going to say, guess what, you guys? You need to keep banning this. This man will force a banning scenario around him. And if you don't respect his Heimerdinger or his Karma, guess what? You're going to lose games to these champions. And I think I just want to kind of say what he's going to kind of force teams to do around him, these kind of meta calls.
He warps people's drafts and their metas around it. So I can understand the value of that player. I absolutely can.
It's very much a meta reason, but I totally get it. Like, the fact that Syros does force you to change so much of such kind of what you would assume.
Heimer got nerfed.
All right,
you got really big nerfs as well.
so it tells you a lot when those pocket picks kind of change things so much. So I can absolutely understand why you consider the most valuable player, because actually that kind of intangible value of what he's bringing to the draft phase is huge.
But it's only something he can get for this week alone.
Everyone gets one.
And it's completely negligible moving forward, because that's just other players just not doing teams, coaches, analysts, everyone just not doing their job. Personally, week 1 though, that's 100% serious. Going, no, you need to still respect me. Do it, or I'm going to keep winning. And now, come week 2, we saw people banning Heimer basically every game. And then he played another Karma game, and they win. So it's
he played Karma and Syndra in week 2, right?
Yeah. But still played the Karma, and then wins again, and goes 1-1-4. And Utapon basically can't die because Syros is like.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a couple of apocryphal stories about Froggen in this last season, where he was playing in NA, and people were picking so much Zoe that he had his own homegrown counters to Zoe in Lux and Vel'Koz, and people just you know what? F this noise, I'm out. I don't want to practice against this, because the time efficiency of me practicing how to play against this picks is not worth it for me practicing other stuff that we'll use against other teams. So applying this to Syros is look, I could learn how to play against Heimerdinger Syros. I could put in the time to do that and figure out something. But like, I could be doing that on so many other champions that it's just not worth the raw time.
Yeah.
It warps everything.
And I mean, a lot of the teams here, right? DFM's goal is to get to Worlds and MSI again.
Yeah.
Every other team is looking to just get high placement slots first, or potentially some of these high teams like Crest and Hawks currently, maybe Sengoku later, depending on obviously how the table goes.
Who knows?
Who knows with Sengoku? They could either oops their way all the way to the Worlds, or they could oops their way all the way to last place, and AXIZ are like, yeah, look at us, boys. So, like, who knows? But with this all in mind, let's get on to week 2. So, we're going to run it the same way as last time. We'll go down, then players up, because it seemed to work well. So for me, in the top lane, I've got Ebby. In the jungle, I've got Tussle. In the mid lane, I've got Arya. In bot, I've got Honey. And support, I've got Pooh. I almost went Pooh as support. Yeah. But I mean, the man is a support main, so go for it.
I have exactly the same picks. Like, we have completely mirrored. So it's Ebby, Tussle, Arya, Honey, and Pooh. So, yeah, cool.
You do have a little note next to Arya, though.
Oh, yeah. So, in mid lane, in any other week against other kind of performances, Ramune would have got my mid lane player of the week.
Me too.
This guy played so well. He played an AXIZ game versus Crest, which was that was another really good game. Oh no, not Crest, against Rascal. That was it.
Yeah.
And he played just super well in that game.
Was that the Rumble game where he went 5-1 and
so? One.
Oh, that was great though.
And then it was against AXIZ. He played the Rumble and just again played his champion and his win conditions really well. It's like in any other game, it would be in any other week it would be Ramune, but Arya just did stuff.
Yeah. Initialize, go ahead.
So I'm pretty much the same. So I've got Ebby in the top lane, got Tussle in the jungle, Arya in mid. I'm actually going to go with Gango at ADC, and I'm going to go with support Pooh.
Oh, Gango, I thought.
So I've changed my mind. I had originally had Utapon in there, and I actually went, no, you know what? No, I kind of have to give it to Gango, mainly because the dude has proved to me that he's truly an AC/DC aficionado and had the biggest balls of all. And
I can respect that.
Drafted his infamous Draven into Darius, Shinzao, Ornn, Blitzcrank, and then Misfortune just for added damage down there. Nice, and went 11-2-9. Absolutely right. Like him and Arya ran over that game. So I still think Arya had the better game, but that's not by the by because Gango was nuts in that game.
Well,
and
game was like 24 kills.
Yeah, Deathless, fully stacked Magi's game, no less. But Gango absolutely popped off that game, did a really, really good job. He was the guy who got after once kind of was steaming through CGA for a little while. Gango cashing in and doing a lot of work was kind of what brought CGA back into the game after it was looking a little bit scary. And he had a really good second game as well on the Senna, sort of even though DetonatioN was doing very well in that game, was doing pretty well in that game. Gango held his own, but just simply because that Draven game was so damn good, I kind of have to put it away.
And who's your support?
Really good.
I had Pooh because.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put Pooh. I put Pooh in and not Honey because I actually think, particularly in the, it's kind of a bit of justification why I didn't, because I think Honey also had a superb week, so I'm with you that being a really good choice. I went with Pooh over Honey. After I closed the tab I was trying to look at. Basically, because particularly in his game versus the Rascal Jesters, his Braum was utterly nutty, and part of the reason so Honey even survived through that game with so much stuff coming at him was Pooh throwing his body and flash stand behind me into ridiculous 4-man dives just to save people's lives, and he played that game so damn well. And I think Honey played well, but Pooh was the superstar for me in that particular game.
Fair enough.
So I kind of gave it to Gango because I think he did have a superstar game and a good game. But I think Honey had 2 great games.
Sure. And who was your player of the week, initializers? We're going to go bottom up again.
All right. So my player of the week is Arya, who was a monster.
Does anyone else share Arya?
I also have Arya as my.
Okay, you guys should then discuss this then.
Okay, so so you were just kind of saying effectively Arya just was a monster. For me, the reason why he's player of the week for both week 1 and week 2 is effectively his team is winning through him.
Yes.
If they win the game, you look at Arya and you say, oh damn, this guy actually won us this game. So in week 1, we saw like his Zoe opportunistic explosions, like winning them games. Against Sengoku this week, he played Vladimir. He went from 1v1ing someone in a side lane to killing 2 people at Baron and stealing it.
Yeah, it was a super fed Kale who was like ready to run things. It was like inches away from hitting level 16 and about to run over the game, and then Arya 1v1s him by bot tier 2, then manages to go literally goes and steals the Baron.
He threatens Blank so much with one-shotting him that he flashes out of the pit, and then it's like, oh, it's free real estate, and kills Baron.
It's brilliant.
You win the smite fight if you threaten the smite with death.
Yeah, that's a good way of threatening a smite fight. Death! You die, then I win!
I've already raved about the CGA Burning Core game where Arya, with the Draven and Arya's LeBlanc, where he has 1.1k damage a minute, where he...
That's absurd. That's absurd. That's like almost unheard of.
Just shy, but like about 1.1k damage.
But over 1k damage is absurd.
Who got a quiz quadra kill and a fully stacked Medjai's, was 8-0 and 15. Like, this was in a game that was over a kill a minute. Like, utterly insane. Like, the dude was a monster. Like, no ifs, whats, or buts in that game.
So for myself, I have not picked Arya, as all the listeners and viewers might be able to tell because I didn't chime in. Yeah. I picked my boy Honey. Now,
totally get it.
Now, this man didn't die at all this whole week. That, for me, as a support main, hearing that my carry didn't die for 2 games, oh my god, I'm the happiest boy in the world. I'm like, oh, my baby's alive. Oh, I'm so happy. Obviously, as Initialize, or Sam rather, did say, Pooh did literally throw his body in front, as a support should do. So obviously that's why Pooh was my support of the week. But the kind of gravitant ults that he was doing with Aphelios is the kind of stuff that makes it into montage clips on Reddit. Like, it's the kind of thing where if you just posted some of his stuff, it would go hit the front page like easy. And like, then he goes and plays Senna and then goes 4-0-10 and just literally dominates and like is pulling off these clutch stuns, playing against Hyde on Aphelios from AXIZ. Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's AXIZ. Hyde's not a terrible AD carry. Honey and Pooh just stomp lane. They don't care that they're playing Aphelios Thresh, which is one of the kill lanes pre-6. Like, this is a lane that will kill you. Nah, Senator Tom Kench said, no, actually, we're gonna kill you. Like, ludicrous stuff. Like, Honey is performing to the level I wanted him to perform, but it's this kind of crazy thing where you're like, I think this guy's gonna be broken, he's gonna be great, but then you have this nagging thought at the end of your back of your head where like, this guy's never played competitive before. What about if he just kind of stumbles and doesn't do anything, like we've seen so many players do?
Also worth noting that in that second game, there were 15 kills in that game from his team. He was involved in 14 of them, so that's really high kill participation. Stuff is...
The center ult does help.
The center ult helps with heals and all this other stuff, but like, it shows like he was there, he was participating. We said it was a big wombo comp, and there was that one really big play where like Gadiadu died when AXIZ were on the front foot. Honey was involved in that kill. It was a very important moment in the game, and he was a very big part of it.
So that's why he's my player of the week. But I think Arya is also totally justified because the man is literally carrying Crest on his back, which is weird to say because it's not like the team as a whole isn't playing brilliantly.
They don't play badly. This guy is just nuts.
Yeah, it's just I would love to see. I really hope he can play some international talent on some stage or something, because my god, I would love to watch him against some of the best in the world, because the way he's playing is just it's gorgeous. It's so good to watch.
I think that we'd all agree that if we had an MVP for the first 2 weeks, it would be Arya. We disagreed on 1 week or the other. It's got to be him after like aggregate over the first 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, total 2 weeks, 100% him.
And the thing for me is like he's carried effectively every game. They've played 4 games and he's played 4 different champions. So he had like
that's true.
Kiana, LeBlanc, and then the Vladimir as well. And it's like, he can...
This Vladimir was so good.
Vladimir was really good, yeah.
He was so good. He's still Baron.
Yeah, I don't...
He's such a good.
The guy was really good.
Yeah. I mean, are there any other players we kind of want to talk about in our list here?
I think that it's worth mentioning Tussle from this week.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% Tussle deserves it.
He's been playing really well, especially in the second week. So we were talking about the AXIZ game. The big pick onto Galliardi, which is kind of like the turning point of the game, it was Tussle setting that up as well.
Yeah.
He flashed on with Jinzhao. He's had a very solid first 2 weeks.
He also picked up the Gragas, which is going to be definitely a talking point for later, which I'm hinting at something. I'm just hinting at something. But with me hinting at something, we're going to go on a very, very short break here, where we are going to come back and we're going to start talking about the meta game as a whole. Ooh, foreshadowing. That's why we're doing this. It makes sense. But we will be right.
What noises you make?
We will be right back after this break.
A summoner has disconnected.
A summoner has reconnected!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial podcast. I am, as always, man, I was going so well. It's still going. We're going to keep this in. This is going in the podcast. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi. I go by Mars1 on the internet. I am, of course, joined by my... how am I going to do it this time? My color caster and my play-by-play commentator, Initialize and Nymera. I messed that up completely. Sure. Introduce yourselves.
Well, yeah, we're back once again. Nymera over here. We're going to talk about some meta stuff.
And I'm Initialize, otherwise known as Sam, because that's my actual name.
God, it feels like I basically gave them the worst news during that break, doesn't it? It's like that their enthusiasm has just gone down. I'm like, I'm so happy right now, and they're like,
He sat down with us over this video call and went, guys, we're gonna have to talk about meta, and the both of us just.
And I'm just like, oh no, I have to claim the region now. Wow.
Dear. So,
all right.
The first topic we're going to cover is Set and Kale and potentially other counter picks that is around this meta. Obviously, we've seen Set having a very relatively decent play rate in the LJL. It's definitely above 50. I think it's around that 50 mark. Kale, slightly less. Go. Talk. This is not a topic I brought up, so I want you guys to kind of take the lead on this one.
So this is something which I've been thinking about a lot because, like, Set has been being Set has 100% pick ban presence.
Oh, is it 100%?
It is 100%.
Wow.
It has been 60.
Dio would be proud.
It's been banned 8.
I got you there.
So the other 100% pick ban champion is Akali, which has been banned 14 times and played twice. But yeah, Set has been played 8 times, banned 8 times.
Can I ask what Aphelios is?
Aphelios is at...
He should be 100.
He's at 93.8.
Disappointing. There's a game.
He's been dropped one game.
Well, I want to find out who did that.
Yeah.
Probably AXIZ because they don't normally play him, so I'm assuming it'll be an AXIZ game, probably versus... But every other team plays him.
You keep talking, I'll have a look.
Okay. But yeah, so effectively, Set, what is his place in the meta? Why is he being picked so much? And why is he being first picked so much? And also, in regards to that, what can you do when people first pick him? So Set has been picked mainly because he survives most matchups into the game, and then he eventually becomes a very good gank setup champion, a very good team fight disruptor, much in the way that Aatrox is as well, where you kind of knock up the back line and just kind of become this unkillable thingy, a lot of sustain and whatever. He has his Haymaker shield and all this other thing to team fight well into the mid game, not necessarily into the late game because while he does some damage, he isn't as tanky as some other things.
True.
But then also, what are teams doing about this? So Set, on the whole, has been doing pretty well. He's got an 87.5 win rate. Which means,
what? In the LJL?
Yeah, he's...
Oh, I'd keep picking this champ then if I were them.
Basically, he's won 7, lost 1. And one of the reasons that is that...
Wait, was that the jungle game they lost?
He hasn't been. No, so this is just in the LJL. He hasn't been played jungle yet in the LJL.
Is he not?
No,
he's
he's
not.
been played top.
Oh, okay.
So, we have seen 3 Kale games, and she has lost 3 of her games, which is all of them. The only time we have seen Kale is into set. So the logic is that if you pick Kale, you get to level 6, you become a ranged champion, you can just outpush set in a side lane and kind of farm up and do all this other stuff.
Free lane,
In
right?
reality, the game ends before Kale reaches 3 items because set just ruins your team fight, and you kind of just end up kind of going, oh well. So that was kind of a little bit sucky. So then it's like, okay, what else could you do against a set? We have seen a couple of gangplanks picked against set. Gangplank tends to be better in lane. You have grasp, and then you can just kind of attack minions, get up your grasp passive, and then start shooting them in the face with your parlay. And you tend to scale a lot smoother into set than Kale because you don't have a really weak early phase. The same can also be said about Rise. Both of these, in GP, Rise, and Kale, well, all of them, scale really well, but actually the GP and the Rise can bully him in lane as well. So I'd really like to see more teams picking up those 2 picks as opposed to the Kale, which, as we've seen, takes a little bit of a long time to come online.
Yeah, it really is surprising that AXIZ is the only team that's picked up this Rise. I would have expected a lot more people to have done that.
Well.
True. Yeah, it's crazy that people are first picking set and they're just getting away with it.
I mean, like, I think the most galling loss specifically for Kale into set was probably the Sengoku gaming versus the Crest gaming.
Oh, it was
one,
sucky. Yeah.
Where, I mean, they were 3 kills to naught for ages. Effectively they were like over 6k ahead, and then Apperman basically. Where does he enter his life away? So
I mean,
like I'm not like there's no, like I want to be nice because so like they are 6 point. What are they at? They're like 6.3k ahead in 23 minutes. At which point, Arya on Vladimir solo kills this cocky Kale in the side lane. He then dies again at the Baron to set. Arya steals said Baron, and the game ends about 2 minutes later.
that's right. Yeah.
Like this, even when Kale is super fair, doing super well, when the game is way in the hands of a team, like she can just get annihilated like 3 times in a row within the space of about 4 minutes.
So
I'm not
let me
even
ask you
joking.
a question.
Between the space of 22 minutes, what was that 22 minutes? 22 minutes 30, and the game ending at 27 minutes 50. She dies 3 times and loses them the game.
So let me ask you a bit of a question here, right? So when you're picking like these really good scaling carries and stuff like that, where do you think the Kale ult's going?
Oh, on the carry, right? On the AD carry, or the mid laner.
It's going, yeah, sure. Yeah, you pass. It goes on the AD carry. But what happens?
Well, unless it's Arya is my mid laner, then I put it on him.
Yeah, what happens if you pick something like a Vladimir, or you pick something like a Set, and you pick all of these other things who are going to damage like and take half the HP bar for 3 members of your team? That one person's safe. What about the other people? What happens to them?
Well, I killed them, right? I'm Kale.
Them. You killed them because you're Kale. So this is my problem with Kale right now. While you can get to 3 items and do some cool stuff, you don't actually 1v1 something like a Phalios particularly well, particularly when he has Severum. We saw that Archer just tore apart Eunyan's Kale on similar items in one of the late game team fights.
True.
And like you can only save one person with a lot of AoE damage in the game. Whereas when you're something like Rise or GP, you do have a bit more teamfight presence.
So what you're saying is I should play Kale when my AD carry is playing a Phalios.
I think that's normally a good thing to do. I think if you have Kale... So we used to see like Kale Kaiser as this like Kaiser bomb thing, but really in meta right now. Although Youth Bomb's really good at that champion. So
I also saw someone in the LCK playing Kaiser, I think this morning, or was it yesterday? It might be.
LCK played it one game as well.
Who was playing it? Yes, I think it was yesterday. I don't think it was today's game.
I mean, like
in my day's state, I don't think it was.
Speaking of Kale bombs, we did see Ramone pick up Corki and then package in with Dasha putting the ult on top of the Corki. So we kind of had a similar idea, right? Where your AD carry goes on diving in with a Kale on and could just sort of like unleash on a team. So we kind of saw that idea, but then Arya Zoe basically decided that Kale wasn't wasn't going to be useful because she blood muck before KO came down.
Yeah, or did Drowsy on there.
We saw Genji play it, by the way. Kyle.
Okay.
That's who it was. Was that yesterday or today?
It was last day's
Yesterday.
games. The last couple of games, yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I wasn't sure. I am trying to keep up to date. I am trying to be a host that actually is aware of what's happening in the world of
Not waiting for the game.
League of Legends. I mean, I wake up normally around 9 o'clock, so I'm like, great, I'm waking up bang on time for LCK. It's great. I get woken up by LS. I couldn't imagine of anything better.
Glorious.
I mean, don't tell my missus, but I mean...
Yeah. Valentine's Day as well. Nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, now I'm on my own now, so it's fine. I only have eyes for LS, obviously. Teach me, senpai. Make me a diamond player. That's a lot of work there, buddy.
All right, let's bring this back to more stable ground.
So, Seth, tell me what I need to pick now. Okay, so we've given me Rise. What else do I...
Rise and GP. I think Rise and GP.
Okay. Is Aatrox good against, or is that a 50-50 match?
Intercept, you can do okay. Ornn is also not bad, but these are kind of...
Teemo?
Pick... Out.
Okay, I'll see myself out for that. I think that's fair. All right.
So I think that the rule for playing against Set is that, like, if you're not going to pick something like that outscales him, like, you're just kind of at best going to go even, right? Because there's nothing which particularly big. Aatrox does okay into Set, like, does pretty well. There are matchups that you can win. I think we saw a couple of solo kills from Aatrox into Set as well.
Yeah. But that's early game, right? Because that's where Aatrox can do that.
Yeah, but it's like Set will always be very disruptive in a team fight. And as we said, you can actually play him not just as a team fight initiator, engage being a big thing in the LGL that I've been talking about in drafts. You do need to draft sufficient engage if you want to play around Dragon and Herald. Otherwise, you kind of just sit there and
don't do a lot.
Doing
DFM trying desperately to kill tanks in the duration of a second.
And then just go, screw it, we'll just TP in, lads. Let's just end this game Expeke style.
At that point, you have to be like a very creative, coordinated team, and that's basically just DFM right now.
Yeah.
Set can play defensive, like we saw against CGA with Aria popping off on Kiana, and you can just shunt the one carry out of a fight and protect and peel and protect. But yeah, I think that particularly at the GP and the Rise, they outscale whilst also being good in a side lane and kind of like a 4-1-1-3-1 style, but also being able to outscale in terms of raw damage output. We saw that Ray Farkey had a really good GP game versus DFM.
Yeah, that was...
Didn't end up winning. It was against an Aatrox, not a Set in that case. But again, kind of like one of these more bruisery kind of type top laners, which GP can do well into.
I totally agree. With that, we're going to go into our next topic of... We've been talking about champions that we should be seeing against Set, but what else in the world of League of Legends do you two and myself want to see going forward in the LJL and kind of in general in the League Pro scene? What champions do you want to see in the future?
Who do you want us to start?
Okay, I'll go first then. Screw it. Fine, I'll go first. Where's Lucian?
Okay.
Where is he? Where is the gunman that deserves to be 100%? How is he 50%? How is he?
Yeah. So Lucian has been just really high presence, basically across
everywhere.
the world, pretty much everywhere.
Apart from LGL, apparently.
But LGL, it hasn't been picked once. We have seen bans of it. We have seen 8 bans of it, which is exactly half the games that we've seen. It has always been banned versus the Softbank Hawks. But it's never been picked or played by DFM, for instance.
Or Sengoku. Or Crest.
Sengoku. Yeah. No, so it's basically
Aria's a great Lucian player, so.
It has just been banned against the Hawks, and then a couple of other teams have banned it in their own games as well. But it's like, why aren't people committing to this pick, which is such a good flex pick?
Well, I think Sam hit a really good point there that I think I completely missed on. Aria hasn't played it yet. He's doing his one, right? He's doing his one, right? Week 3 or week 4, we're seeing Aria just play Lucian. He's just like, you guys just keep not banning this. Let me show you how OP it is. And then you've just got the Hawks looking, going, oh, that could be me. That could be us. We could win.
Yeah.
Like, It's I suppose Lucian probably not a bad matchup into set either as well, right? As far as something that we've seen so much set priority, like Lucian can dash the way the relentless pursuit away from the face breaker, so like
Actually, it's probably a hard counter, right?
to punish that quite hard.
Yeah, I think the threat there is that he just showstoppers you, and it is a suppression speed.
That's not great.
But like, if he's already like not doing damage, like so after he lands, he charges up his haymaker, and you dash out of that. Most of his damage is already gone by that point,
and then you can turn around and trade back.
Yeah, and Lucian has a lot of, and also like if you're kind of running him down, if he tries to showstopper you, he has to showstopper away from his own lane and his own side of the map, right? Unless he like has flashes. And
and solo lane Lucian likes to build Blade of the Ruin King as well, and like set notorious closing on you. So if he gets close, you
fight that character. You absolutely.
So you just throw the active Blade of the Ruin King down, and suddenly set even with knuckle down isn't fast enough to catch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what does he do? Like, what does he do? He just begs the jungler to come gank him? Well, Lucians are normally very good at getting very deep wards in because their jungler is also aware that they need to do that because if the Lucian doesn't die, you just have a second AD carry, which means you just have 2 hyper carries normally going in, which is absurd.
Like an AD carry. And also, like, if you don't like that matchup, say, like, so I think there aren't too many junglers in the LJL which like to play around topside. I think Boogie is pretty good at doing that. And even then
it's basically Boogie.
And then the only time when
Steal sometimes.
Topside after that. Steal sometimes as well. Yeah, I think you're right.
Depending on the game that Ebby's having, though, that's the thing, right?
And it depends on the draft. Because
yes.
So another champion that we've seen like really high ban rate on is Elise.
Yeah.
And Elise is like the top lane dive champion. Like she's really good at like stunning up the single person, single target burst. That's why we don't tend to see a gank bot as much because like there are 2 people to then kind of coordinate which one you're going to kill and whatever. But, like in the top lane, you can dive, you can reset tower aggro, and you can kind of get out. So like if you're playing like Elise into the Lucian and you can shut down the Lucian, you kind of get set behind. It's like, okay, right, you don't want to do that. But if it's banned anyway, like there aren't too many champions which are fantastic at ganking top. There's like I think Gragas and Rek'Sai are okay. But even then, like there's more counterplay for Lucian available against them than there is against the Elise.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of where it is, right? Like you only really can play like 4 or 5 junglers. Like J4's fine at ganking top, but it's fine, right? I think most of these champions are fine. Lee Sin is obviously, I think, champion you said, fine, but no.
And it's just how the LJL plays. They don't really like putting a lot of emphasis on top lane, even when there's something like we did see Burning Core.
Possibly why I think people like Apperman are finding a fair amount of success. Actually, it's because they kind of know that people aren't going to be coming towards. So you can pick a Yorick and like it's versus Boogie, who potentially is the guy who will come up. But the fact that you potentially could pull that off against a few other teams tells me quite a lot.
Okay. I do have a sneaking suspicion there's another reason it's not being played, but we'll get on to that in a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next champ that I'm peed that's not being played. Actually, no, I can swear on this podcast. Pissed. That's not even technically a swear word, but it's semantics.
Wow, weird. So
whatever.
Where the fuck is Diana? What the
We've seen 1 game from Diana.
Yeah, first or second game jungle. No, this champion basically destroyed solo queue for a good few months in preseason. It's been shown that she's very strong at the moment. What? Just play her, please. Because
I think part of it will be champion familiarity. Some of the mid laners just like won't have the necessary mechanical knowledge of that champion.
True.
I would also like to see Diana played more, if only for the fact that we've seen quite a lot of Zoe blind picked.
Yes.
And Zoe is a champion that we've seen a lot over in LPL. Well, when that was on, obviously it was now taking a break.
Hopefully they come back soon. We are honestly hoping that they come back soon.
And we've seen it a lot in the Western region.
Thoughts are out there.
I don't remember if we've seen too much of it in the LCK. But
a little bit, yeah. A little bit in the LCK.
Cuz picked Diana jungle in T1's last series.
Oh, I actually haven't.
He went like 5-1 and 5 or whatever. He did pretty well.
And again, in the LCS and the LEC, both similar things.
That's about it.
Yeah.
But like, so basically Diana is pretty good against Zoe because you can get right up in her face and try and assassinate her, and she's not actually fantastic against people who can kind of like eventually just like get up into your face and stuff. And we've seen stuff like, so Aria played it. We also saw Pyrian play it.
Well, Diana will probably be on his list.
Yeah,
he's just crossing up
list. Yeah. It's like it's got like the whole like champion select board. It's like I've got one. Yeah.
This one done now. Oh, I had a perfect game on Zoe. Does that mean I get another one?
Yeah.
No. Oh, okay. I'll just. All right.
And also, Diana's just really good team fight wombo as well, which a lot of these teams are going towards. We obviously saw that game, the Hawks versus AXIZ, which was really big wombo.
Yeah,
It's not the only
huge.
game we saw that. The very first game of LGL this split was
Detonation
DFM
V3.
the mother of all wombo comps.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think that there is definitely a place for Diana.
All right. I've done a
It's lot
bit
to say
too much.
from that. But okay.
Yeah, you take the lead now. I've done a bit too much talking about my champs.
Around wombo combos, we are seeing a lot of Jarvan, and like a lot of sort of like wombo combo team fights being drafted as we kind of been talking, and like I'm kind of wondering where Zach is at that point.
Yo, true.
Like, I feel like as someone who can gank from actually kind of unusual angles, and that it was always because Zach's been out of the meta for a while, can catch people off guard because people aren't used to warding against him again, and that's always a kind of a boon to him not being around for a little bit for players of the champion. And two, like his ultimate, the Let's Bounce, is just great CC, right? So if you're seeing a bit of Jarvan, I wouldn't be entirely unsurprised to see a little bit of Zach coming in, actually. And I understand, of course, a bit weaker early on, and of course when you do have things like Shinzao on the table, it can be a bit risky. But I definitely think there are ways to draft into having a Zach in your team, especially if someone's already picked J4.
Yeah,
Like you can definitely draft Zach in and kind of return. Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of thing. If jungle pools are getting banned out, I could definitely see Zach being something which picked up.
So I don't know what the accepted wisdom is, but I know that today in LCK Zach was actually picked in jungle, and there's some reasoning
was it?
behind.
Yeah, it was. On Fleek picked it.
Yeah, so
On Flink of Sandbox Gaming.
okay, but there's a reason why I don't necessarily like it in that case, and well, I mean, I'm kind of just parroting LS, I guess. But so basically, Zach is actually a flex pick between jungle support and top lane. He can be played in any of these roles and be. I don't think he's a premier top lane. I don't think he's a premier support. But
Garbage support in my eyes. I'm silver, so what do I think?
like, yeah, he's okay because of his passive, and obviously he's just another engaged melee support, and like he can poke with his Q and stuff. Like he's all right. I think you can play him with something like Braum. I think playing Zach into Braum is actually pretty good because he can't.
Sure. Yeah, I could see
I
that.
don't think you necessarily want to play it into like Thresh. You can flay you out and stuff.
God, no. Or Nautilus. Oh, God.
I'm not actually sure on that, but like he actually has a good amount of burst damage. But like if you can pick him as a flex pick and then just screw over the draft again, flex picks are always good in pro. Like almost without exception.
For so much more options, right?
Yeah, if you can draft appropriately around the flex, right, and give yourself the flexibility to say on 5th pick, these picks should be going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it also requires the various players to be good enough to make the flex pick worth it, right? That's all well and good drafting one way, but if your support player is an atrocious Zach player, then what you've really done is just inted. But
well, in that case, you got to practice the pick.
Well, exactly. But
and then it's the backroom staff's job to get them trained up on it.
True. Yeah, that is true.
So to kind of bring it back, so like I was talking about Zach specifically as kind of another hard team fight jungler who's kind of got some good options to gank with his kind of elastic slingshot.
Yeah.
Kind of on the other side of that coin is like finding ways to answer the team fight in the draft, right? And I do think potentially we should be looking a little bit more. The LJL could potentially be looking a little bit more at 4-1 comps, and with specifically the one, right? We've seen Appermen have some pretty high success on things like the Yorick, and to a lesser extent on things like Kennen with the Gunblade, though of course that kind of then transitioned to being much more of a team fight champion. And we've kind of seen this weird fascination with Kayle, and then obviously Kayle kind of is a really hard push in the sidelines, kind of how she's been playing. So, but where is things like the Fiora? Where are things like the Camille? Like people like Appermen really love to play that. So like,
there's a reason that
that's
Fiora's
definitely an answer to a team fight.
So Fiora, okay. Oh no, like there's.
I mean, obviously, it's a risk.
No. I think it's probably about time to bring it up now because it fits in with the Lucian earlier as well, and in some ways the Kayle and other things as well. Is that basically this predicates that these teams want to play in a 1-3-1 style, and I think that the LJL has some fundamental flaws when they play around 1-3-1. Even teams like DFM, I think, are skipping steps with their setup for this style.
Yeah, sure.
So we talked about 1-4. Sengoku showed that with the Yorick. They showed that with the Cannon as well. I think you're right. I think that So the famous example of this in terms of what I heard over last season was Splice, actually, where Splice would play 1-4, where they could have been playing 1-3-1. And basically because instead of a 3-man unit, you've got a 4-man unit, you have an extra man to punish someone who makes a mistake in the mid lane, and then you can kind of teleport in for a team fight.
Okay.
With the 1-3-1, you have to balance another lane. You need to make sure that all the waves are in the correct position, because if you do over push, back in the last summer finals, we even saw like Ebby's Gnar getting caught out, and he's really good at that pick, but like if he just pushed up too much, sometimes he didn't respect how he could get collapsed on.
I'm sure that was also him literally trying to go for 1v1s and dying for it.
Sure,
So like, there's also an element of like stupidity.
But that shows you when actually who we call the best top laner in the league is falling prey to things which are actually kind of like in like the core tenets of 1-3-1. Like, hey, you need to know where people are on the map. You need to have good vision for this, and that goes between support and jungle. You can track the jungler and therefore like not fall prey to them unless you have the advantage of like Apperman, Zero Grogu 1v2 and all that other stuff. That's another aspect of it. I think that champions like the Lucian fit into this as well, where he is a very good team fighter, but he does need to sit in side lanes and get a 1-3-1. I think that the LJL skip a lot of steps when it comes to vision and wave pushing and safety when it comes to 1-3-1, which is maybe why we're seeing less of these picks.
That would make sense. I can definitely see that. Alex, have you actually got any champs that you would like to see at the moment that's not really seeing a lot of play in the LJL, or just in general?
Well, if you'd asked me after week 1, I would have very confidently have said Gragas.
Okay.
There are so many good LJL Gragases. There was, I think Steel's a really good Gragas. I think that once had some fans had in week 1.
Hachimecha.
Yes.
Really good. Hachimecha's really good. And
that's half of the LJL you just said.
Half of it already, right? So basically in the first week we saw, was it one game of Gragas?
I think one, yeah.
One game or something like that. In week 2, we saw a couple more picks and a couple more bans as well. But I've been harping on so much about Engage. Sam was talking about Zac as well as this Engage champion. Gragas does that. He has Barrel, he has his Flash Body Slam, he has Predator. He can definitely run the Engage comp. But he is also a disengaged champion, which is something which not very many engaged champions also offer on the same ticket. I think Ornn is one of those. He's like the other one in that kind of ticket as well. But Gragas with the Barrel can displace a lot of the very low mobility champions that we have in the backline, but also has the ability to impact the early game at the same time with his Flash Body Slam and stuff like that. So I'd like to see Gragas. Yeah,
it's rather like kind of depressing to see that Gragas, that's not really, the word's not depressing. No, depressing is actually the word I want to use here.
It's unused talent, which
he's literally only been picked and banned 5 times. He's been banned once, picked 4 times, and he's won 3 out of the 4 games. He's actually done that. The 3 games he won was with Burning Core, DFM, and the Hawks, and the only one he lost was with Bengi. And that was when I think the rest of the team just kind of was falling apart, and it wasn't Bengi's own fault. Boogie, sorry, yeah.
Bengi being the world champion.
Yeah, not in LJL.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of crazy. Any other champs, Alex?
Can I just
go for it.
On that thought, like, am I right in thinking that the LCK guys, so specifically like LS and stuff, have kind of like serious issues with Gragas being picked? I know they're not a massive fan of the Gragas at the minute.
I think that particularly in the LJL, because teams are struggling so much with kind of like impotent Engage.
Gragas offers that.
I think, and also he offers that, and also like even against teams which like drafting low Engage, if there's only one Engage tool you have to watch out for, like Cask just denies that a lot. And we saw that in the perfect game from V3 against Burning Core, like not with the Gragas, but we saw with the Ornn, right? But Ornn can just kind of like call out the Ram.
Call the horn, do it.
Or also with like with the way jungle AP itemization works at the minute, like actually like at least at a certain point you can sort of be discount Carthers if you just throw your barrels at once and you can just blow someone up.
Kind of.
It is, I'm talking very much discount, like Carthers does Carthers significantly better, but there is that kind of element of
and we
an
have
AP
seen Carthers
threat from a long it's an AP threat from a long way away that can do a lot of damage and also doubles disengage. So there's definitely that option.
I know we were just talking about 1-3-1. If their homework is done, I'd love to see Talia, because Talia buys and stuff as well.
So good in 1-3-1, but
and like as far as as far as like a
She's a good ganker as well.
well, like as far as macro answers to team fighting, right? Like one of those kind of tried and true methods is tearing apart the map, right? But you need to
But
be
no
good in
team
that,
is
right?
buying into that except AXIZ in their first 2 games, but they got really
Yeah,
crap.
we kind of we saw Apperman go for it as well, and we've seen DFM go for it with the Akali top, but that was more of as a result of what was left open in the draft.
Akali's different, dude. Akali can
Yeah.
still team fight.
True,
Like,
actually, that's very fair.
Basically, normally the trade-off you make for a split pusher is they don't team fight as effectively. Kennen is the exception to that mainly. Kennen, Camille.
But Kennan's got the ult that lets him get away with it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does Vladimir count in that route? Well, I suppose
No,
Vladimir
Vladimir-
maybe better thought.
Okay, Vladimir kind of counts, but he's not fantastic at pushing down turrets. He's kind of
True,
like,
yeah.
there's a, okay, right. There's a
It's
lot
like
of different-
GP, Aatrox. These are the kind of camps. These are the kind of champs. Sets even are the kind of champs you want to put in that sort of
I suppose
zone,
the
right?
distinction is they're good side laners, they're not good split pushers per se.
Yeah.
And then there's also a different which kind of split pusher are you? Are you going to kill champions or turrets and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But, you know, I think particularly it's Gragas for me. That's the one. Yeah.
So with that all in mind, you actually said a champion that you said, oh, it's different. Quinn. Now, you didn't say Quinn, but Quinn's a champ I really, really want to see more of. We're seeing so many of these melee, just like want to get in, attack the creep. Who punishes better than Quinn? She is so fast, she can get around this map. So guess what? You can have a gank early into mid, and so many of these mid laners in the LJL need an early gank. Come sick. Like, they're so needy.
Huge for pure.
They're so needy. And now if top laners like App, I can so see Apperman just go, well, I guess I'll play Quinn. I'm going to try and kill this Mordekaiser. And if it doesn't work, I'll just gank mid and pray to God that they don't die. And
So I think that... Oh, sorry, no, I'll let you finish up into it.
One other thing, Quinn, if you start picking Quinn, you can stop banning Akali and you can bait people into picking Akali, because one of Akali's big counters is Quinn. So you just go, you can take Quinn, you would take Akali, that's fine. You play her wherever, I can play Quinn mid or top. Fuck it.
So I reached dive into playing Quinn, so like that was pretty much like I've only played Quinn and Ari this last preseason, so I've had like a lot of recent experience. It's not like top level stuff. There are some mechanics you can play with Quinn versus Akali, and you can build into like Hex Drinker and all the other stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't think it's strictly a counter matchup, just because like Akali survives lane and then like can team fight better than Quinn. So the problem I have with both Quinn and Lucian actually applies to both of them, because they're both these AD carries.
You're tying it all together now. I see. It's all
It's
coming
basically-
It's all coming together. It's all part of the
I
plan.
think that it's partly a reason why it might work in the LGL, but then partly why it wouldn't as well, just because like so the reason that it would work.
Interesting.
LGL does not like focusing on top lane, like we said. And, like,
Yeah.
Which is the reason why potentially some of these 4-1 picks could work, right?
Potentially why it could work, right? Although I think we saw like Boogie trying to like gang Yorick early, and then like also like when Ray Farkey played against DFM, they also ganked the Aatrox. He was playing against quite a lot as well. When they were trying to play around top as a win condition, neither of those times that actually worked, but you know they both lost those games. If you get shut down as an AD carry in top lane, even if you just die once against something, and I think definitely Akali, you just cannot let that through. But if these AD carries fall behind, they are just permanently behind. They don't get to kill their lane opponent.
Yeah.
If Quinn dies pre-6, she doesn't have a teleport to get back to lane, because you run a combat summoner, because you use your ultimate to get back to lane.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, but if you don't focus on top lane, it's like, okay, right, so they survive through the early lane, they can get to bully and all this other stuff to get to push in. Someone like Apperman, I think you're right, could definitely pull that off. But on the other side of this,
I think Dasher could as well.
Maybe Dasher.
Maybe.
Dasher's got the experience from playing mid lane champions, so I think that would be translate well for him.
Like there's a different skill set to playing AD carries as well, and there might be some other
Maybe Paz.
Potentially, yeah.
But then obviously the other thing is like, then you have to play the map. You do have to do a 1-3-1. You have to play around pressure.
Yeah, that's why I just went back to Apperman.
He's had a great couple of weeks. He's had 4 games.
Well, he's also the man who's already shown it. And basically did that for a game, so currently that's where my hope would be with that.
But yeah, no, there are reasons for and against. I think right now LJL just needs to do some 1-3-1 homework if they want to do something like that. They're very content.
They ought to,
play
because there's so much team fighting. So
exactly, and that's the thing. They're very content to buy into team fighting. If you're going to do that, pick Gragas And if you're not going to do that, play 1-3-1 and do your homework.
But like,
I think it'll be an interesting pick. But
I wonder, right? So DFM always want to do team fights, right? They figured out that this is how they can win the region, right? Team fight, team fight, team fight. Even when we don't draft a team fight comp and we play a Kali, Syndra, Trundle, and all of that, and a Felios with a Thresh. Oh, actually, I don't even think they had a Thresh. Who's their support? Tarek. Oh,
yeah,
God, they didn't
team fight.
Yeah, they didn't even have the Thresh there. I was like, oh no, wait, they didn't even have the hook to get it in there. No, oh God. If you could
team fight, right? But like even then Ebby's like a solo killing up in the top lane, and then suddenly that lane is a nightmare.
But now if you start going 3-1-3, you can start forgetting about half of it because you're just like, well, we're just going to keep applying this repeating pressure and force them back.
Yeah.
Right? Because then Ebby can't ever go into the team fights, right? And if he's just forced, because it's like Lucian or Quinn is just like, nah, fuck you, I'm going to keep pushing. And they're like, we got to send somebody. And it's actually going to be Ebby, because Ebby's the only one that can actually kill them. Because if we play badly or Syros misses his Syndra, like, knockback, then he just dies. That's how that goes, sadly.
Yeah. But I think, so the reason we're seeing a bit less of this is that...
Being overzealous, obviously.
If you end up losing a Herald or a Dragon because of... Well, so Herald's a more early game, but
Herald, 100%, yeah.
If you miss too many Dragons because of this, then you can end up fighting against a Soul. That's really the big So then that means it's not impossible, and there are definitely ways you can kind of like... say you're doing a 1-3-1 with a Vladimir or something like that, or a Lucian, right? Or any of these kind of... These split pushes which farm up really well, and they get the solo XP, they get the farm, and then come into a team fight really fed. You can start doing that. So you give up early Dragons to then kind of build up to your power point and then start fighting. You can start doing it then. But like all of these are just extra factors which like you need to train yourself around and train your team around. So it's whether they want to commit to that kind of style and do the homework. Right?
Instead of Lord Hexy, I'm going Lord Apperman. Do it, man. I mean, he's the only current top laner that I think has already shown he can do this.
I mean,
I think but Ebby's a different camp, right? Like Ebby, we all know Ebby can do that, right? He hasn't had to do that. He can do that. Apperman is
like his 2 games this week. He was kind of doing it, but only by kind of virtue of the fact that he got solo kills and then got so far ahead he could kind of...
Yeah, because he was just like, I'm just going to keep walking down.
So regardless, like his set game was disgusting. Like it just really a disgusting.
Creamed all over the Mordekaiser, yeah.
Yeah, but like that's what he can do. That's why he was our MVP of week 2, lads. I
think the other person actually, just going back to last season.
Well, I'm one for you.
So Nat plays Shen. Nat plays Shen. So I think that, yeah. And that gives you...
I'd love to see Shen.
Yeah, I think particularly from Nat. But and particularly because they're playing with Gango and Adia, who are so good carries, and just play Shen, protect the carry. Yeah, you can do that.
Oh, that would be legit. And also the stun also does it. Ult, stun, just do the Shen things.
The little taunt thing. Yep.
Wow.
Anyway, I think that's most of my thoughts on meta-y stuff. There are some other things floating around, but like nothing as coherent as that.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm drifting off a little bit here as we're heading towards like 4 a.m.
Oh yeah, we are doing this a nice late one, and we are going to be casting in the morning as well. So it's going to be go to bed, sleep. Somehow, and then wake up straight back into LJL. Well, this is what we live and breathe right now. Is the LJL, and it's kind of wild, but I'm actually loving it right now. I am actually really enjoying it.
You're really looking forward to these first 4 games as well. I think
it's good stuff.
Yeah, so for those listening that want to blast from the past, because you're almost definitely listening to this after we have cast our LJL games.
Probably, I thought. Yeah.
No, 100%, because I'm almost falling asleep here. So likelihood of me actually casting this. Oh my god. Yeah. Rascal, Jesters, and AXIZ are about to go live with their game. It's about 4 a.m. here, so that's when they go live. So, okay. So for that first game, as I said, it will be Rascal Jester versus AXIZ. We will then have AXIZ versus Crest Gaming Academy. Crest Gaming Act, not Academy, Act. And then we have Crest Gaming Act versus V3 Esports. And then to round out that 4th game for us, it will be V3 Esports versus Rascal Jester. Following that week, we will be bringing those games to you. It won't be on that Saturday. It might be the Sunday or throughout the rest of that week, but we actually have a full week to actually produce content and reflect upon this week. So it's kind of crazy. I'm almost not used to having a week. I'm like, oh no, we need to think about the next week immediately.
Oh yeah, it's just like, oh, when are we free? We need to do another 4 games quick.
Yeah, I was like shouting at these two like, so next 4 games, and you guys are like, what? And I'm like, next 4, next 4. So the last 4 for that week will be this Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming versus Detonation FocusMe, which we've already said to all you lovely listeners is going to be our game of the week and most likely the LJL officials game of the week.
I pretty much guarantee it, let's be honest.
Yeah, most likely. The only one that can take it off is DFM versus Sengoku. But it will be, so the next game is Burning Court versus the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming. Then we have Burning Court versus Sengoku Gaming. And to round it out, as I said, is Detonation FocusMe versus Sengoku Gaming. Now I'm going to pass it over to Initialize and Nymera for any closing thoughts for this episode 2 of the LJL Unofficial podcast.
It's been a hell of a ride the last not even week yet. It's not done yet. We've got some more to see. I'm looking forward to seeing how particularly the top of the table kind of shapes out and whether DFM can kind of continue their dominance or whether they are going to drop some stuff. And on a sort of side note, like Kale just needs to stop. Like, stop it, guys. You know better than that. Or at least, like, there are so many other options you could be picking into set. Yeah. Kale is not your choice. Stop it.
Nymera?
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, we've seen 16 games now, getting a little bit of a feel for each team. Each team's played 4 times. But no, I'm really looking for like the adaptation and the innovation because like obviously a lot of these teams are bringing up some weird shit already, guys.
Maybe that Nocturne mid back.
There's gonna be. I'm really looking forward to like the flavor which is brought in. I'm just looking for this whole cocktail of random stuff. And yeah, no, I think obviously like everyone has their own way to solve problems, and problem solving comes in many different forms. So I'm hoping to see some interesting stuff.
And I personally can't wait to actually watch this DFM versus Softbank match. And I'm so sad that we're not covering it as the first 4. I'm like, I'm going to have to wait so long and avoid all the spoilers. And it's going to be such a good game to watch. I can't wait to watch you two cast it. I'm so excited. That's crazy that I get to go, I can't wait to watch you guys cast it. It's going to be exciting.
It's a good feeling. It is a good feeling.
It's so good. With that in mind, we are the LJL officially unofficial crew team. We do all of this on our own back. We have no affiliation with Riot Games whatsoever. This is completely fan-driven. Everything you see produced is all our own, from the logo that's above us right this second to everything in between, except for, I think, the opening music. Well, no, actually, I know the opening music which we use, which is Riot's, but they allow everybody to use it under Creative Commons license. So yay, Riot's a nice company in that sense, which is fucking awesome, dude, because like their music is dope and I definitely listen to it in my spare time while I'm boogieing along. So I have been Moss1. My Twitter handle has been underneath me. This man right on my left has been Initialized. His Twitter handle is underneath him. And all the way on the opposite end is Nymera. His Twitter handle is underneath him.
Not there. No one cares about him. He doesn't get it.
Well, it's there because I put it there, so I know it's there. You can also find all of our content on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. We tweet actively, at least daily, relatively speaking. So if you have any questions, you can either tweet at us directly or contact the LJL officially unofficial Twitter handle, which is I've actually forgotten.
LJL unofficial.
LJL unofficial. Thank you, Nymera. Where you can also reach all of us, or if you have any specific questions. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2, and we hope we'll see you again very soon.